Hi, welcome to Technical Difficulties. In this issue we've been looking at incorporating the stepped hi-hat sound, and in this lesson we're going to look at playing it in a swing or shuffle setting and playing the upbeat. Most of us don't tend to use the hi-hat like that in a swing setting. While we might be comfortable doing that in, say, like a straight 8th or 16th note feel, so putting the upbeat on this side. It's less common to use it like that in a swing or shuffle setting, but it can be really effective. So the first thing that we need to be able to do to start to build up this kind of feel is to break up the shuffle rhythm between the cymbal and the stepped hi-hat. So in this instance, the cymbal is going to play the quarter note, and you're going to play the third partial of the triplet or the skip note with your hi-hat foot, like this. And you also ideally want to be able to play that over on the hi-hat. I tend to play that heel up on the hi-hat. I feel it gives it a nice strong chip sound out of the hats and avoids any sort of splashing quality going on. So next, moving on to example 2, we're once again going to break the shuffle up, but this time we're going to break it up between the bass drum and the hi-hat. So the hi-hat is once again going to play the skip note, the upbeat. Now the bass drum is going to play the quarter note. A useful piece of independence with that might be playing single stroke 8th note triplets over the top of it. In example 3, we're going to bring all of that together and introduce a backbeat to give us the basic pattern, which you may have heard played by Steve Gadd. So quarter notes on the ride and the bass drum, 2 and 4 on the snare, upbeats on the hi-hat. A couple of variations on that basic pattern would be playing it over on the hi-hat. Or with a sort of splashy, crashy sound, which again you may have seen played by Steve Gadd, where we splash the hi-hat and we lay into the cymbal with the shoulder of the stick. Another thing that you see Steve Gadd do is lie the stick onto the cymbal, which seems to sort of give an almost compressed sound to that quarter note. You could also approach that basic pattern the way you might play a Texas shuffle, perhaps playing all the 8th notes on the ride, or the jazz ride pattern as is shown in example 4. And I'm going to play that pattern. Then I'm going to introduce the upbeats on the snare as well. So, but still maintaining the upbeats on the hi-hat as well. From example 5 onwards, we're going to move away from the quarter note pattern on the bass drum, so it requires a bit more independence. So the first one in example 5, you've got this sort of shuffle Charleston pattern, kick on 1 and the end of 2 and the last upbeat eighth of the bar as well. So like this. And then in example 6, we've got what you could think of as the rock shuffle bass drum pattern. All the swung eighth notes apart from 2 and 4 where the snare's falling. In example 7, we start to introduce the ghost note in your left hand. So playing the middle part of the triplet, the same way as you may have played like the Purdy shuffle. And so you could think of the underlying pattern being this sort of linear triplet movement between the ride, snare and hi-hat. Whilst in example 8, we're doing that with the rock shuffle. And then finally, example 9 is a bit of fun really. We've got what's essentially the Jeff Porcaro Rosanna type pattern, so a half-time feel, and played this way so we could play it either on the ride or on the hi-hat, but filling in those ghost notes. So something you might want to try as a sort of primer for this is just establishing this rolling triplet feel, but in a half-time setting, so kick on 1, snare on 3. Or perhaps a little more like the Purdy shuffle, putting that kick before the backbeat and at the end of the bar. Or the 2-bar pattern that you see in example 9.